We run, we win. Hello guys, this is James. Today we're going to talk about outsourcing, breaking the circle of prosperity. Now we know outsourcing has been taught in several, maybe 100 business schools around the world, and here's the Christian take on outsourcing. Basically, you are breaking you're breaking the circle of prosperity. We know how we have this prosperity. We know how we have the rain cycle, where it rains and it hits the ground and it goes into the ocean. It goes down the mountains into the tributaries, the streams, the rivers. Then it goes into the ocean. Then it evaporates. So it goes in a circle. It goes in a circle. So that is called the water cycle. If one of the things is left off, if there's no heat to make the water evaporate, then everything will go it'll rain down, go down the mountains and stay, and the water cycle ends. That's why it's called the water cycle. But there's a thing called the prosperity cycle. First of all, we'll talk in the simple sense. Well, the prosperity, you have the employer, the employee, and the community. So you have the employer, the employee, and the community. Now, of course, we'll leave the employer, the employee, and the community. Now, if the employer has money and gives it to the employee, then the employee will put that money into the community because they'll buy food, clothing, entertainment. Then the community, when they buy the food, clothing, entertainment, they buy the stuff, then the community puts more money into the employee because the community will of course be buying whatever if it's a bread, if the employer is a bread company, then we'll say they'll give the money to the people who work, and the community will buy bread. So the money goes to the community, the employees goes to the community, then it goes back to the employer inside of this. And this works in a country. A manufacturer, they pay their employees, the employees pay the community, goes back to the country. Let's say the employer loves money. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. So they want more money, more money, more money. And so they decide that they're going to cut out the employee. They're going to outsource to another country, we'll leave the country. It could be another city or whatever. They're going to be here. They're going to stay in this country, but they're going to outsource right off the camera to another country. Well, what's that do? This is how it breaks. First of all, simply put, it breaks the cycle, because now you have this person is sending money to these employees who are not even in the country because they're not inside the visual, the thing. They're in another country. So these people who are in another country, they are going to, I should leave it off the screen, but we'll bring it over. They're going to put money into their communities. So we've got the money goes from here right out of there. It goes into another community. And maybe the community, especially if it's a poor country, they might not be able to get that money back to the employer. See, so the employer the employer is really, that this community is not really going to be the person buying from this employer. It breaks the prosperity cycle in the country you're in, because now you're not paying the employees. This is the problem, because now the employees are still here, but the money from the employer is going somewhere else. So now these people are out of work. They still have bills. They still have stuff they need to do. And they still have to spend their money to the community to buy the food and the bread and the stuff. They still buy the bread from this company. So the money is going from the employee to the community, and the community is giving money, they're buying the bread. But it's going off into another country. So you have a hole inside the prosperity circle. And over time, it will degrade. That's why communities die when people outsource. Because now the community, it's the love of money, because the employer wants top dollar. They still want the community's money, but they're taking the jobs from the employees. So in the long run, it destroys the community. That's why it's not a good thing to do, because you still want money. You still want your country to pay $300 for this loaf of bread, or you still want top dollar. You still want a maximum profit from this rich group here. So you're still getting money out of the community, and the people are still, they're still got to spend money, but you cut out giving them money. So what happens? Over time, employment rates go down. Over time, the community prosperity goes down because the money you should have been paying the people is now going out to another country. And that's just it. And you're not redoing it. That's why if all companies decide that they wanted to outsource to a cheaper country, then they wonder why, prices are going up and why people are trying to get more money. Then you got these people are disgruntled, they need more money. So now that's how you destroy it. So now these people, they got to go find jobs because you just outsourced 3,000 jobs to another country. So now you got 3,000 people unemployed because you love money. You just love money, and that's really basic. That's all it is. We can make more money. It's wrong. Same thing when you pay somebody who doesn't pay income tax. If it's federal tax, if you pay someone you pay someone off the books, illegal immigrants, illegal workers, you pay them off the books, that money is not going to get back into the money is not going to get back to the government. It's not going to get back into the community because that money that you're giving is going to these people who are not supposed to be here working, illegal aliens, legal immigrants, or whatever. That money's going to another country. See, you're breaking the circle of prosperity. Taxes aren't going into the government, so if you had the employer, employee, community, government, no money's going to the government. See how you're degrading prosperity. You're destroying the circle of prosperity. Finally, of course, one of the main keys of prosperity, which atheistic, humanistic education has failed to tell the truth about, and you can see it in countries that are communists, that don't acknowledge the King of Heaven, is God. God is a quintessential part. He's the one who administers the blessing in Genesis chapter 1 and beginning of Genesis chapter 2. God is the blesser. You cannot have, if you remove God out, you will actually have a degrading society, and you're removing God out of prosperity. So instead of having prosperity, you're removing him out. So we're talking about simple prosperity, employee community. Yeah, that thing, keep that gray. You could add the government in there, and you got the four things. Just keep it going, right? But if you add God in there, which is the ultimate point, the ultimate adding to prosperity, the ultimate ingredient for prosperity, then you have it. But when you remove God out the schools, prayer out the schools, the people who hate God don't want people praying in schools. It's utter foolishness and rubbish. They don't want to hear anything about God. They're taking God out, but they still want the prosperity of heaven. They still want blessing and prosperity. They still want everything to go well. They still want prosperity. They want the prosperity circle going, but they don't want the person who initiates the prosperity circle. The blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and he hath no sorrow with it. So God is a quintessential part. So you can have the regular prosperity circle, congratulations, and it will work. But if you want national prosperity, you want a country that will be foremost, a forerunning country like the United States was founded, a forerunning country in the world, founded on Christian principles. Quit lying to the kids. George Washington almost got killed. He had bullets go through his clothes. God protected him. Hey, quit lying to the American culture, telling them that the country wasn't founded on Christian principles, because it was. That's why they left England. You remove God out the prosperity circle, then you degrade the prosperity circle. So we got prosperity. You want long life. You want your community blessed. So business people, entrepreneurs, CEOs, people in general, you can't outsource your stuff and expect your community to keep going. Eventually, if you continue outsourcing, then the people won't be able to buy your expensive bread. They won't be able to buy your expensive electronic equipment or whatever, because you have destroyed your own community because of the love of money. The Bible says there's a way that seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So you think you're having fun because you're making all this profit, but you're not doing the community. Prosperity works in the community. Business works in the community. Feel a need, find a need, fill it. That's what a business does. That's responsible business. That's not the same as someone who's just after profit. So I love you. Thanks for joining me. Be blessed in the name of the living Lord, King Jesus the Christ. Remember, live, move, be. And let's wait for this to change from So stay away from things that seem great like outsourcing, and let's go for continue with the prosperity circle.